Thanks so much for being with us on the Texas Wealth Report. I'm Brad Johansson with Summer Roberts of Impact Partners Financial. Always nice to be with you.
Always nice to be with you. Good
How
to
are
see
you today?
Living the good life.
Let's live the magic life, shall we?
absolutely.
I want to talk magic today. And I'm going to bring this up. You and I have dealt with the rearing of children. I'm going to point this out on the kids that I've dealt with who have gone into athletics or some other endeavor, and you get to a point where you go, man, I want this to happen so bad. And I remember in talking to them, I would say, there's no magic to this. There's absolutely no magic to this. There's hard work. When we go into the retirement phase, man, you guys have been working for 10, 20, 30, 40 years of work. You said there was no magic to what I've accumulated. But now we enter into the retirement stage, and we're going into some magic years. So I want to bring up some of the years that may pertain specifically to people who need your help. Can I start at like 59 and a half? If we go to magic years, what's magic about 59 and a half?
Well, 59 and a half is a very magical year because, well, twofold. Number one, for most companies, 401k or retirement plan, most employer-sponsored plans, by the time you're 59 and a half, you have the ability with most companies to do what's called an in-service withdrawal or in-service rollover. So you can start to access your money at that point. And the best part is there's no 10% penalty from the IRS anymore.
Everything before that's penalized.
Correct. So anytime you withdraw money from any type of retirement account, any tax deferred account before 59 and a half, you will pay a 10% penalty plus taxes.
Yeah.
So depending on what tax bracket you're in, that could be a big chunk.
Is there something to start planning for as we get closer to 59 and a half?
Yeah, so one of the important things that I tell people, even if you're not 59 and a half yet, or you have yet to reach that, we can go ahead and start looking at it and seeing what your options will be. And also, some bigger companies, specifically in the Houston area, allow these rollovers at 55. So they'll allow a partial rollover at 55. But the important thing is we've got to start planning and figuring out what to do with that money, because we've got a limited options within your 401k plan, right?
Okay.
So if we roll that out, we've got the world of options at our fingertips.
Is there, if you've got a bunch of companies who are now adopting this early rollover, is there something that you have to start working with in preparation? Because there would be a tax penalty, governmental penalty, with that 4.5 years before that magic number comes, correct? I'm just trying to be clear on how you can help them plan in those years.
Yeah, so there are a few reasons we could. There are a few things in the tax code that we can utilize for.
Awesome.
Yeah, for instance, if you lost your job and needed access to that money earlier,
Gotcha.
or anything of that sort, those are pretty high level, like a 72T and things like that. But you have to work with a real fiduciary advisor, because when you start to get into that stuff, you want to make sure that you're working with someone who knows these rules, knows these laws, and can really help guide you for what's in your best interest.
Perfect. All right, can we get to another magic one? Because if we get to 59 and a half, all right, we're out of penalty, but 62 comes up as that most important number, and this is talking Social Security, right? Mm-hmm. Why is 62 so important?
So ultimately, the only reason 62 is important is because that's the first age at which you can begin to take Social Security.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that's the best option, but it is available at that time.
Okay.
But I would tell people that if you are considering taking Social Security early at 62, there's a couple downfalls there, right?
All right. Do share.
So, it's less money, right?
Because you haven't maximized.
Right. So if you waited a few years until full retirement age, it increases each year,
Okay.
the amount. So you would get less money. Make sure that that works with your plan. Number two is, if you're still working, then you're not only going to have to pay taxes, but there's a penalty for early Social Security if you have earned income. So we want to be really careful with that one, because depending on what your tax bracket is, anywhere from 65% up to as high as 95% of that could go to the IRS.
Yeah.
So
We don't want that.
no. People have worked way too hard for that and put too much in.
Do you see most people coming into the office and it's my money, I've worked for it, they're telling me I can get it this early, I want it as early as I can possibly get it, and then they kind of forego the math on what that actually means. Do you see a lot of folks in that situation?
Absolutely. Every day. I mean, I've heard it all when it comes to Social
I'll bet you
Security.
have.
There's not anything someone can tell me that I haven't heard before. Let's hurry up and take it. But I would caution you that you need to work with an advisor, because Social Security is critical to make sure it's in your overall retirement plan. And it needs to be built in with whatever income plan that you have. And Brad, that's the kind of things that we do all the time at Impact. We do this every single day. And so people may come in with that philosophy, right?
Sure.
And they're not wrong for that. There's nothing wrong with that. However, sometimes when we do the math and we show them, and we will put scenarios together and say, okay, here's what you want to do, right? And this is what it looks like after taxes, after inflation, after the penalties you'll pay, everything, versus here's our recommended strategy. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time when people see those numbers side by side, it's a very clear picture and it's very easy to make a decision.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing is a lot of people will say, well, I've talked to somebody, he took his early, or I talked to somebody I worked with, or I talked to somebody at the water cooler in doing this, and I just go down to the Social Security office and do this. People need to understand they can't give you advice at the Social Security office. If you come in and say, I want to do this, and you check a box, you get one chance to do that. And without advice and coming in to talk to you on something like that, you haven't done the math.
Right. Well, and the hard part as an advisor is sometimes, although Social Security is not allowed to give you advice, sometimes people do. And people will come in to me and they'll say, well, at the Social Security office, they told me I could do this and that there's no penalties and this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, they can't do that, but that's okay. Let me just give you the facts here. Right.
So it's so important. I mean, this is what we're talking about in coming up with a plan. There's no magic to what you have done because you have worked your whole life to accumulate all of this money. But the magic years, they start to figure in on what you're doing as far as distribution goes, and you need the math. You need a fiduciary independent advisor. You need the Texas Wealth Report. Would you like one of those? As a matter of fact, a lot of what's in there is what Summer has penned in Retire with Impact. A copy of the book comes free with an appointment. What are you waiting for? Because this isn't magic, but the years matter and the timing matters. 866-254-8026 to come in and get advice, because math wins. The Texas Wealth Report continues after this.
We see
tons of people every day that think that they have a plan. When we get in and we dive in, there's a lot of missing components. Sometimes it's a good start, it's a good philosophy, but some of the old ways that people used to utilize are not the same things that are going to work these days. Financial planning has shifted and changed over the years, and we have to take that approach and be a little bit more progressive in how we plan for things. What's unique about our firm is we are basically a one-stop shop. We've got an accountant on staff, we've got strategic partnerships with attorneys, we've got a Medicare specialist that can help out. If they need Medicare advice, they just call our office. If they are concerned about long-term care, we can take care of that. We basically want to be everything for our clients so they don't have to worry about going somewhere else. It's a jigsaw puzzle, and you've got all these pieces and they have to fit together. That's one of our focuses, is the overall holistic planning, bringing all those pieces together to complete a full plan. Without that, you're at a lot of risk.
So glad you're with us on the Texas Wealth Report. I'm Brad Johansson with Summer Roberts of Impact Partners Financial, and we're talking about magic years today. And we've gotten through a few. Unfortunately, there are a lot of them that don't feel magic. They just are what they are. We've gotten through 59 and a half when we can start doing rollovers, to 62, which is the earliest part we can start to file for Social Security. And then we hit that magic 65, which turns us into, you're now eligible for Medicare.
Right.
What's important about 65 and knowing approaching that age?
So I would say the most important thing about 65 and Medicare is people ask me all the time, do I have to file? Do I have to file for Medicare? Well, yes, you do, whether you're working or not. So you need to go ahead and get on that by 65. But Medicare is an extremely complex beast, right? There's a lot involved in Medicare. So we actually have a Medicare specialist that works for our firm to help our clients, because it's complex, because the plan that was good last year is not the plan that's good this year. They're changing. I mean, I don't know. They have plan A through Z at this point. But
and they get to. They're the government. That's what happens on this. We are allowed to change the rules.
Yeah. So I think the really important thing there is make sure that you have a plan. Make sure that you meet with someone who specializes in Medicare. You're more than likely going to need some type of advantage plan or some type of supplement.
Yeah.
So just make sure that you're meeting with somebody who can help you with that.
Gotcha.
As an independent.
Within the 65 is really a 5-year frame if we talk about magic years, because 62 to 77, or that would be a lot of years, 62 to 67 is that 5-year frame. And we're going back to Social Security. We talked in the first segment about hitting that 62 where you can finally file. But there are a number of years within that. What's magic about that 5-year frame that we need to pay attention to?
Yeah, so the most important thing is between 62 and your full retirement age, whatever that is. It's different based on the year you were born. It's going to be anywhere from 66 and 8 months to 67, whatever your full retirement age is. That's when you get your primary insurance amount, which is your full amount of Social Security, right? So each year from 62 to the full retirement age, let's call it 67 now for easy math. Every year that you delay taking it gets more and more and more. So as you delay, you get more income from Social Security. But the important thing is, when we jump back to penalties and taxes, right? Once you reach your full retirement age, there's no penalties, there's still taxes,
Always
unfortunately. we can't get out of that one. But there's no penalty. You could make $200,000 a year income, and it doesn't matter. There's no more penalty once you reach that full retirement age. Each year prior to that, they will penalize you for any earned income that you have.
Okay, so we go back to this math all the time. In doing it, someone says, well, I've calculated this and I'm going to wait as long as I possibly can. And if I do it at this, my math says that I've made this. The thing is that they may not have figured out how long it would take them to make up if they're going early. Now, as you said earlier, I'm not telling you that going early is wrong. It's just important for us to create a plan for you to understand what the math would be over those next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years.
Right, right. And part of one of the things that we do at our firm is we'll run a Social Security optimization report. And that gives us kind of a breakdown of what you're referring to, we call the break-even age, right?
Right.
So if you take it at 62, you're getting a smaller amount, but you're getting it many years earlier.
Yeah.
Versus what if you wait till 67 or even 70? What's the difference there, and what's that break-even age? We can run that report and see where that break-even age is, but in all honesty, that's not the most important part. It's important, but what we have to also take into consideration is, what are your retirement plans? Do you have a pension or not? There are other income streams that we have to take into account. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
I had a client, a couple came in a couple years ago to meet with me, and he had planned to retire at 65, but he wanted to wait till 70 to take his Social Security so he could maximize it, right?
Okay.
Well, where's the income coming from between 65 and 70?
Did he have a plan?
No, there was no, I mean, the plan was take withdrawals from the 401k. And so, which, as you and I both know, is not really a plan.
Well, I mean,
So.
and that's what I mean, you talk about taking it out of buckets at the right time and making sure you know where your money is, and that the buckets are all there for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
In doing that with somebody, are you able to go through plans that say, all right, here's what we're doing at 62, here's what we do at 65, here's what we're doing at 67? You also mentioned it matters what your plans are in life. And a lot of people are coming into the office going, well, I'm just going to retire. Well, what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. I'm just not going to work. That is as much a part of the plan as anything else. Is what income are you going to need, because here's what I desire to do with that next phase of life.
Right. And people do underestimate the importance of that.
Yes.
And most of your big box brokerage firms out there, they don't get into that nitty-gritty with people. Part of our appointment process, in our very first meeting, we call it discovery meeting, because the goal there is not just to gather information about your assets and your money. It's really truly to get to know you and understand you better, because I want to know your goals. If you have hobbies and you want to spend more money on that, right? I had a client a few years ago. I remember when I first met with him, because he was very stoic, walked in, arms crossed, very just stoic face. And he said, hey, I'm here because you said you would give me a complimentary consultation and you'd give me a second opinion. I said, absolutely. So he has this stack of statements he shoves over to me, and I respectfully pushed him back. I said, we're not there yet. It doesn't matter what you have. I need to understand more about you first, because I wanted to know he has a deer lease out in the piney woods in Texas, and he wants to spend more time up there. That's important, right? His wife wanted to rent an RV and take the grandkids to Disney World. And, that costs money.
Yes.
And that's, you want to be able to do what you want in retirement. And sometimes those can be larger costs. So we have to take all of that into account because, my goal is always, I want my clients to be able to retire well, and stay retired. And I always tell them, I want to put you in a position to where if you go back to work, it's because it's your choice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You only get one chance at retirement.
Yeah.
So let's do it well. We'd like you to come into the office so we can find out who you are, how the match works. Do you want to become part of the family so that we can help you with your plans going forward? Do you want that RV? Want to head to Disneyland? Do you want to go out and play with the deers? What is it that you want in the next phase? We can help you plan that with a Texas Wealth Report. Call now for your complimentary visit. Let's get to know each other. 866-254-8026. The time is now.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
So glad you're with us on the Texas Wealth Report. I'm Brad Johansson with Summer Roberts, Impact Partners Financial. We've gone through some of the magic years, starting with 59 and a half to 62, to Medicare at 65, to Social Security in that 5-year window of 62 to 67, and then delaying it potentially from 67 to 70. Now we get into requirements, the RMDs, required minimum distribution, and those magic years are 72 to 75. I may be saying this and people are going, what? I don't know anything about this. RMDs are out there, but a lot of people may not know that their requirements are coming upon them as they approach these ages.
Yeah, well, the RMD is a sore subject with a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's the required minimum distribution. So it's what the IRS is going to force you to take out of your retirement plan when you turn a certain age. So it's changed over the years. It's morphed into something a little bit more challenging, so much so that I have to have a chart now.
Absolutely.
They've made it a little more difficult to figure out, but it's based on your year of birth.
Right.
So it could be anywhere. I've got some clients that are at 72, they're required to start taking it. Then for some people it's 73, and for some people it's as late as 75. So you may be thinking, oh great, well they've given me a few more years in there.
They haven't been generous. Don't be fooled.
It's rare that they give you something without, getting something in return. So they're seeing it as there's a few more years for that money to grow. And your RMD amount, people ask me all the time, how much is my RMD? And it's a calculation. There's a lot of factors that come into play. You know, is your spouse 10 years younger than you? Are you widowed? There's a lot of things that come in, but the basic math, there's a chart actually on the IRS website, and we've got it on our tax summary to
Okay.
provide to people as well. But whatever your balance is on December 31st of the previous year, you divide that by your number that's on the chart. So, you know, let's say it's 26.7. You take your portfolio of $500,000 and divide it by that number. And that's how you determine the RMD amount. But here's the kicker. It increases each year.
Yeah.
Right? So the amount that you're required to pull out, and why do they want that money?
Tax it.
Taxes, yeah. I mean, they want their taxes paid before.
So this becomes a tax implication number in dealing with something that you have to do. Are there strategies that you can help with to minimize the tax?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, it's not best for everybody. We've got to see what's in their best interest, but there are strategies we can, with proper planning, we can put a plan together earlier to start potentially converting some of those funds. We could potentially pay taxes now, which doesn't sound super exciting, but if you realize that we're at record low taxes right now, you may prefer to pay taxes now while we're at record lows versus later. We don't know what they're going to be, but we know they're going to be higher, right?
And we know you need a plan. Too much to go through by yourself. Let us help you. The time is now, because we want your magic years to be the best that they can possibly be. Call now for a Texas Wealth Report to put a plan together to make your retirement truly magical. 866-254-8026. As always, we're so glad you joined us. We're looking forward to seeing you in the office. Until next time, thanks for being with us. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.